The Wendigo is one of the most chilling and enduring figures from North American folklore, particularly among the Algonquian-speaking tribes, such as the Cree, Ojibwe, and Innu. Described as a gaunt, skeletal figure with a horrifying, insatiable hunger, the Wendigo is said to embody the darkest aspects of human nature: greed, cannibalism, and the destruction that comes from giving in to primal urges. But what exactly is the Wendigo? Is it merely a legend told to warn against the dangers of isolation and extreme hunger in the harsh, cold winters of the northern forests? Or could it be something more? Something that existed, or still exists, deep within the wilderness, waiting to prey on the desperate and the lost. In this video, we'll explore the terrifying legend of the Wendigo, its origins, and the role it has played in both folklore and real-world events. We'll also examine whether there's any evidence to suggest that this creature might be more than just a story passed down through the generations. According to the traditional legends, the Wendigo is a malevolent spirit that possesses a human who succumbs to the ultimate taboo, cannibalism. In times of extreme famine, especially during the brutal winters of the far north, food could become so scarce that people would be forced to do the unthinkable to survive. The Wendigo legend suggests that those who eat human flesh are overtaken by a spirit that transforms them into something no longer human, a Wendigo. The transformation is described as horrifying. The person becomes emaciated, skeletal, with sunken eyes, grayish skin, and an overwhelming stench of decay. But despite their gaunt appearance, Wendigos are cursed with an insatiable hunger. No matter how much flesh they consume, they remain starving. The more they eat, the more ravenous they become, forever driven by their cannibalistic craving. The Wendigo is also said to have supernatural abilities. In some versions of the legend, it can move with incredible speed through the forest, hunting down its prey with ease. It's also said to possess immense strength, and in some stories, the ability to control the weather, summoning blizzards to trap its victims. The Wendigo is sometimes described as having glowing eyes, sharp claws, and a long, hat-forked tongue. But the most terrifying aspect of the Wendigo isn't its physical appearance. It's the fact that it represents the darkest part of human nature: the potential for cruelty, greed, and self-destruction when faced with desperation. But the Wendigo isn't just a creature of myth. The legend has real-world roots, particularly in the harsh conditions faced by indigenous peoples and early settlers in the northern wilderness. Winters were long, food was scarce, and survival was never guaranteed. These conditions bred fear of starvation, isolation, and what people might be driven to do in order to survive. The Wendigo legend served as a warning. To commit cannibalism was not only to break a social taboo, but to risk becoming something monstrous. Some historians and anthropologists believe that the Wendigo legend also played a psychological role in helping to prevent cannibalism. In times of extreme deprivation, the story of the Wendigo may have acted as a deterrent, reinforcing the belief that those who ate human flesh would not just die but become cursed for eternity. Interestingly, the Wendigo wasn't just a mythological warning. There were also accounts of Wendigo psychosis, a controversial mental disorder documented among certain indigenous groups. People suffering from Wendigo psychosis would express an intense fear that they were turning into a Wendigo, or that they were being overtaken by a desire to consume human flesh. They might claim to hear voices urging them to cannibalism, or believe that their body was beginning to change, taking on the features of the Wendigo. One of the most infamous cases of Wendigo psychosis involved a Cree man named Swift Runner in the late 19th century. During a brutal winter in Alberta, Swift Runner and his family were starving. Instead of seeking help from nearby Hudson's Bay Company posts, Swift Runner reportedly killed and ate his family. When he was later arrested and confessed to his crimes, he claimed to have been possessed by the Wendigo spirit. Swift Runner was executed for his actions, but his case became one of the most well-known examples of Wendigo psychosis. A chilling reminder of how the fear of this creature was deeply rooted in the psyche of those living in the harsh northern environments. Though Wendigo psychosis is no longer recognized as a legitimate psychological disorder, the idea of people being driven to cannibalism under extreme conditions and believing they are turning into monsters has left a lasting impression on both history and popular culture. Today, the Wendigo has become a popular figure in horror fiction, appearing in books, movies, and even video games. The image of a ravenous, cannibalistic creature stalking the frozen wilderness has captured the imagination of people far beyond its original cultural context. In films like Ravenous and Antlers or television shows like Supernatural, the Wendigo is portrayed as a powerful and terrifying force that preys on the weak, the desperate, and the isolated. But while these portrayals tend to focus on the Wendigo as a literal monster, it's important to remember that in the original stories, the Wendigo was more than just a physical threat. It was a symbol of human greed, excess, and the loss of humanity. The Wendigo serves as a reminder of what can happen when we lose control of our basest instincts, when we allow fear, hunger, and selfishness to overtake us. And perhaps that's why the legend of the Wendigo continues to resonate today. While most of us will never face the kind of life-or-death situations that the original tellers of these stories did, the themes of the Wendigo legend, hunger, fear, greed, and transformation, are universal. The idea that we could be transformed into something monstrous by our own actions, that we could lose our humanity by giving in to our darkest desires, is a fear that transcends time and culture. So, is the Wendigo real? Is it just a story told to warn against the dangers of winter and starvation? Or could it be something more? A supernatural creature lurking in the darkest corners of the forest, waiting for those desperate enough to succumb to its curse? While there's no hard evidence to suggest that the Wendigo exists in the physical world, its presence in the cultural imagination is undeniable. For centuries, the Wendigo has served as a terrifying cautionary tale, reminding us of the fine line between survival and savagery, between humanity and monstrosity. Whether or not the creature itself is real, the fear it represents is something that has haunted humans for generations. And who knows, on the coldest, darkest nights in the northern wilderness, when the wind howls through the trees and hunger gnaws at your stomach, maybe, just maybe, the Wendigo is out there, watching, waiting,